Coach, congratulations on making the NCAA tournament this year. What was that feeling like on Sunday when you saw your name called?
Not gonna lie, it's always special when you see your name on Selection Sunday. You know, there's a little less suspense for us this year because we felt really good about our position. We pretty much locked that in. We had a couple of the big wins earlier in the year and then stayed consistent. But it's always special to see your name pop up.
Talk about those couple big wins you had earlier in the year against Grand Valley and Ashland. How much do those wins early in the season help you come tournament time?
Well, they help you draw upon that experience because we know that every team in that bracket we're capable of beating, and we have beaten quite a few of the teams that are in the bracket. Now, there's quite a few teams we haven't seen, but we know it's the strongest region in all Division II with number 1 and the number 2 team in the country in the coaches polls. But we know we can compete with them because we've already done it this year, and we got to draw upon those things and really play with a lot of confidence from game 1.
Talk about your opponent, Lewis, in Friday's game and what you guys are going to have to do to really try to counter that offense that they have.
Yeah, Lewis is probably one of the hottest teams in the country right now, winners of 12 in a row. You know, they won their conference tournament championship, and they just have so many players on the court that are so offensively skilled. They move the basketball great. They space the floor really well. You know, they're a team that we're familiar with, even though we didn't play them this year because we did play them the last couple of seasons. And it's a lot of the same players on the team for both us and them. And they're just a really high-powered, potent offensive attack, really unlike a lot of the teams that we've seen in the GLIAC. You know, they remind us of a couple teams, but they're unique in their own special way.
And then, so you guys didn't play against them this year. They're 1-3 against GLIAC opponents this year. Is that kind of something to look at, kind of see the familiar opponents that they've taken on and you've taken on?
You look at it a little bit, but you also see that those 3 opponents or 4 opponents were in November, and it's March now. So teams change drastically from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. So their losses up at Northern and Tech were the first 2 games of the year. And now that we're really a different team than we were then. But it is something you look at a little bit, knowing that, okay, you can play the comparison game a touch and just kind of see matchup-wise, like what are the kind of teams that give them a little bit more trouble compared to some of the teams in their conference. So we learned a little bit from those things, but those aren't exactly games that I'm looking back on the scout because they were so long ago.
And then you were talking about the confidence of your team. You took down the number 1 and the number 2 team, and they're both in your region. I mean, how much confidence does that give you going in that you're the only team that has beaten these 2 number 1 and number 2 teams?
I think they've earned that confidence, but having that confidence and having that past experience doesn't really give us any extra points when we start the game. You know, we talked about you can have the confidence and believe that you're one of the best teams in the region, but you have to prove it over the next 40 minutes because it's a 40-minute season. So if we want to earn a chance to play, Ashland or Drury in that second round, we have to play a great 40 minutes right now and earn that. So, belief, confidence, those are great things, but we got to prove it out there on Friday afternoon.
Coach, you talked about teams growing and changing through the course of the season. Where do you see your team having grown through this year?
I think we've improved drastically this season on the defensive end of the court. I think that's one area where we're pretty disruptive. We got our hands on a lot of basketballs. We're not the biggest team, so we can't really play behind people in the post and just kind of put our hands up and hope that opponents miss. So we play a little bit more of an aggressive style, which, Lewis has seen a little bit, but not quite to the extent that, teams in our conference play a little bit more aggressively on that defensive end. There's a lot more low-scoring games in the GLIAC, than in the GLVC, but I think defensively we've really progressed as this year has gone on, and a lot of those silly mistakes that you make early in the year when it's kind of new, we're really honing in on a lot of those things right now, and it's going to have to be a big key for us on Friday.